Good afternoon. My name is JC Bardalis from William T. Dwyer High School in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, and this is my creative critical reflection for ACE Media Studies. In my magazine Rumble, I initially wanted to stay as close to the conventional alternative music magazine as possible, but I ran into a few problems with that right off the bat. Both the models that I had in mind for my magazine were females, which isn't very typical due to the fact that it is a male-dominated genre, as shown on the infographic. I also decided to go for a less traditional topic for my feature article by focusing on not an artist but a fan. These are definitely some risks I had to take considering the demographic I was working with, but besides those two things and a few others, I try to stay as true to a traditional music magazine as possible. By slightly going off the beaten path with a few aspects of my magazine, I think it enabled it to stand out just enough from the others without sticking out like a sore thumb. For instance, a majority of other music magazines out there focus on select artists or the music that they produce, but rarely have I ever seen a music magazine step outside of these conventions and actually have their feature article about the people that give the artist their fame, their fans. By doing so, I hope that my audience, being fellow alternative music fans, will feel like they're being recognized and make it relatable for them, finally giving them a different perspective on things while also getting acknowledged as the people who are really behind the success of their favorite artists and bands. However, I still needed my magazine to fit the wants and needs of the demographic I was working with. After some research, I came to find that the people that would be reading my magazine would be men anywhere near the ages of 25 and 47, meaning I was working with young and middle aged adults. As a 16-year-old female, I initially did have to change a lot of things to better fit their likes and interests and put my own aside, because at the end of the day, it would be their demographic buying the magazine, not my own. In order to appeal to a more mature and masculine audience, I stuck to dark colors and bold fonts. Using a rule of three for my color scheme, I decided on a deep red, black, and white. These three are extremely common in music magazines, along with heavy bold fonts. I wanted my magazine to again have a traditional look, so at first glance you would be able to tell what category of people would be compelled to buy it. To give an example, let's say I was instead focusing on a fashion and gossip magazine. What comes to my mind instantly is curly fonts and lots of pinks and purples because of the stereotype I automatically pair with that genre of magazine, young teen girls. This way, my magazine would draw the attention of my target audience without scaring them away, because in the world of media, people do judge a book by its cover. I would also make my magazine readily available online, since there is a portion of my readers that are still in a younger age bracket, while also having an actual printed version for those who aren't as reliant on the internet. During this project, I had to include multiple photographs to add to my magazine, whether it be for my feature article and cover or my table of contents. With these photos, I also decided to stick with conventional shots you'd expect in any music magazine. After looking at a variety of other well-known popular music magazines, I realized that they all typically use cutouts of their models in candid shots or also sometimes posing for the camera. So I decided to make the cover of Rumble both a candid shot and a cutout. I also used a cutout for my table of contents, which was also commonly done. Concerning photos in my magazine, the only place I didn't use cutouts was in my feature article. Doing so goes against most feature article layouts for my genre, but then again, there are also several well-known magazines that don't either, so I don't believe this decision was one of the bigger risks I took with this project. If anything, I think it made my feature article look more polished in a way that didn't really match the genre of grunge all too well. So to add a little more roughness, I went with a very out there font for my article title, which mirrors that of my cover page. This helped with the overall unity of my three pieces and helped add in another factor besides color scheme that tied them all together and made them look more uniform. Dealing with different types of computer software was probably where I struggled the most. The sites we used for photo editing and putting together our actual magazine layouts were all new to me, and I hadn't ever really tried my hand at anything too similar either. I knew how I wanted to edit my pictures, and I had a very clear idea of how I wanted them to look once cut out, but it was much more difficult than I had anticipated. I struggled the most with my cover page photo cutout, and still, now that everything is done, it still remains one of the things that I wish I could improve on. When I took the photograph of my model, I didn't realize that it would be a portrait photo because I had taken a landscape one, and I didn't realize until it was too late to go back and take a new picture. So, what I had to do instead was crop out a lot more of the model than I wanted to and zoom in, which actually distorted the quality of the photo. It also flattened the model's head, so I actually had to go in and draw the rest of her head with Photoshop so it'd be a full cutout and look more natural on the page. After some practice, I did finally get the hang of cutting out my images in a way that made them look organic when placed on the page, but it definitely was no easy task and they still aren't perfect. The layout software didn't give me as much trouble, but it did take some time getting used to. By the time I got to doing my feature article, though, I was able to use it with little to no problems. Despite a couple of hiccups here and there, I am happy with what I have made, and I would consider it successful under the criteria of a functional and persuasive piece of media. Thank you.